'22 promises to be a year of innovation and complexity.
So today on Future Forward, we peek around the corner.
Crypto, blockchain, NFTs, the metaverse, and more, how the decentralized world is arriving.
And social media, news, misinformation, and truth. What's in store?
Plus, how do politics tie into what tech will be and what's at stake?
I am Steven Rosenbaum.
And I'm Alexis Cordato. Let's launch.
Hey, Alexa.
Happy New Year, Steve.
I always feel weird saying that phrase.
Why?
Because it's presumptive.
I know, especially this year in particular.
Good New Year, promising New Year. Anyway, yes, Happy New Year to you as well. So this is going to be a fantastic show. We cover a lot of news on this pod, and I think we're deeper into the weeds sometimes. And some of our fans and listeners have said to me, it would be good if sometimes you guys would just back up and bring us along. And so your suggestion, I think it's a good one, is we'll spend a little bit of time on 2021. We'll just kind of like rewind a little bit. And there have been some big things in 2021 that are probably worth just touching on, because there is this snowball rolling downhill. And at the risk of sounding foolishly optimistic, I think 2022 has the potential to be absolutely awesome.
Okay. I like your optimism. I felt that way going into 2021, and there were definitely highs, but it was still a trying year in a lot of different ways.
It was. So let's do 2021 very briefly, because there've been lots of other folks who we both read and listen to who have done, kind of retrospective things. But like highlights for you, lowlights for you in 21, and then we'll get to the future, which I think is super interesting.
Highlights were the vaccine, right? It just set a tone that said we can kind of get back to normal. And, on the flip side, the lowlights for me is that I think 39% of the American population is still unvaccinated. And so that stinks.
I have to say, I don't understand. I understand people that wanted to wait. I understand people that were nervous. I understand the politics of it. But it seems like you just want to shake people and say, hey, listen, Trump's gotten the vaccine. Trump's gotten a booster. He's your guy. Fine. He's telling you what to do. Like it seems like the politics part of it, like people aren't like, it's like, and I will say, last Thursday, I did spend some time on January 6th, and I made a decision to watch Fox News.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, it's worth, for our listeners that don't watch or listen to Fox News as a podcast, I highly recommend it, because you begin to understand, like, if that is your news source and it continues to tell you that the vaccines are not necessarily going to work, even though everyone who's at Fox has taken them, I think it could be very hard to change your mind.
Right.
And the other thing is, I think that just objectively, Biden has done extraordinary things, and the amount of money that's coming out of Washington that's going to have a positive impact on infrastructure, and that is I think going to be hard to measure, just the number of projects and things that are going to move forward. But we're still stuck with Joe Manchin holding up Build Back Better, and I do not understand why he can't be charmed or cajoled or bribed into coming on board.
See, that's like another example, right? Like highs and lows, where it's like 2 steps forward, 1 step back. We're so close to moving forward with Build Back Better. And then there's like one holdout that just like anchors us from making progress faster.
Couldn't we buy him a new car or an island or, some whatever West Virginia needs anyway. So let's jump to 2022 because we rattled off at the top of the pod a whole bunch of things. Maybe I'll put you on the spot and ask you the question: Is there one thing? Is there one? We talked about metaverse, NFTs, crypto. Like, what's the thing you're following that you think is going to lead these other technological changes into the future?
So I say following with like air quotes because, I'd say like the umbrella of Web3 and the conversation around it is definitely something I'm paying attention to. But to the extent that I feel like I can distill it into something that truly feels like a paradigm shift and something that is, I don't know, as substantial as, let's say, Web 2.0, I don't know if I'm there yet.
So I think I'm going to go in the more optimistic category. So let me start with my naive definition of Web3, and you can beat me up. So one of the things I think people don't recognize is that the early inventors of the internet, the real visionaries who put together this connection of computers and brains, imagine this kind of like multi-pronged, no central point of either failure or success. And then over the last 8 years, 10 years, 7 years, our web experience shifted from being websites to being things like Facebook or Reddit or Twitter, all of which are private companies. They're not the web in the way that, so Facebook's business was, though I don't know that they've ever said this out loud, replace people's web experience with a private island that they control and then monetize the hell out of it. And so in some ways, Web 3 is meant to get back to Web 1, right? Which is not privatized, but public access to multiple sources without a single login or without anybody controlling the world. And by the way, just as a footnote to that, Facebook's decision to get out of the software business in the metaverse is interesting. I mean, we'll get to the metaverse paradigm in a moment. So I think Web3 is, and this gets to NFTs and crypto and all of these things, is about openness in its core DNA. And that comes with extraordinary opportunity and some horrific risk.
Right. What do you see as the biggest risk?
That people that were formerly honest have decided that playing in these spaces is a combination of a game and a con, and that some of the people, for example, in crypto, are like, I mean, it's hard to find people that are altruistic crypto billionaires.
Have you followed the Jack Dorsey, Andreessen Horowitz kerfluffle?
No, not a
Yeah,
surprise. But
yeah.
what are they kerfuffling about?
Jack was he was just like commenting on Web3 and how like VCs are like kind of predatory in the space. This is just like high level paraphrasing, and then he like got blocked by Mark Andreessen, and it was just pretty funny.
So I met Mark Andreessen once when he was 12 years old. Not quite 12 years old, but when he was working in flip-flops at University of Champaign-Urbana. I have no, it's me being disingenuous to say I thought he seemed like a nice kid at the time. But I read the other day there's this most expensive house in LA that just went on the market for $500 million or some crazy amount of money. And they were talking about all of the big real estate transactions of the last year, the biggest ones in history, and Andreessen was like number 3 of
Mhm.
not real estate like a ranch, real estate like a house,
Right.
which made me a little sad. Like, I mean, I guess, and anyway, but my point about the risk of openness, I'll just give you an example. And I was thinking I was dying to tell you this. So I'm officially in the NFT space.
Wow, Steve.
I bought 4
What?
and I minted 3.
Holy cow. Okay, we have a lot to catch up on.
And
Also, now is a really
it
good
was
time to
hard,
buy
by the way.
Ethereum, by the way. 30
What?
Ethereum in like the last month is like down 30%. So anyone who wants to get in now, you can do it at a discount.
I will tell you that the interesting thing for our listeners who are not yet geeked out on NFTs is A, it's complicated. B, for a picture and words guy, it has more math than I was expecting. And it seems like everything you touch takes a commission, a fee.
Yes.
Has anyone bought gas yet? I had to buy gas.
I buy
Gas,
all the
which
time.
is a toll. It's very strange. Not gas for your car.
Yeah.
Gas for your NFT.
Yeah.
So, I think that what I'm saying, just to put a button on it, is the openness of this next chapter will let in a lot of bad players who kind of think it's a joke. And like, if I want to make an NFT of this little dog, which is actually probably not a bad idea. If I want to make an NFT of my little dog and that becomes $1 billion NFT because I promote the hell out of it and people buy it and trade it, then, shame on them if they want to pay me $1 billion for my little dog NFT.
Yeah. So can you simplify, I guess, some of the language or vocabulary? Like, help me connect the dots between NFTs and, say, the metaverse. Like, what if, like, is NFTing the physical world around us, objects like your dog, ultimately building the metaverse?
All right. So here's what I understand. And by the way, listeners, feel free to jump in here and tell us we're wrong, because this is new stuff. As the NFTs, the media is treating them like they're all these kind of silly art objects that people are overpaying for. But as I understand it, it's really just a way to create digital things on the internet that are then connected to the blockchain. So, for example, if you get a ticket to a concert, you take the ticket, you go to the concert, you hand the ticket or scan your phone at the concert door, and you're in and you watch the music and then you leave. If you buy an NFT for that concert, you all of a sudden are connected to the artist. And that ticket becomes a token, and you can then participate in future music, conversations, swag, gatherings, meetups. It's really just a living, breathing location on the blockchain that makes you more connected to either a thing or a person. And if you think about it that way, then the silly $1 million art object story becomes more, in some ways, the $1 million art object is more like the old media covering a thing they don't understand. And I guess the idea that events, people, offerings can have a digital life and can have value and can be traded and sold, makes perfectly good sense. I mean, what is this little pewter dog worth? Well, the answer is it's worth whatever you'll pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
I guess. So to
yeah.
take a more devil's advocate stance, How is this not all Beanie Babies?
Well, I mean, it is in some sense,
Okay.
or Pokemon cards or baseball cards
Or just
or
general art, right? Like less than 1% of the world's population collects art. But
but
there's
but
always
but
going to be a market for it, right?
but it's not but it's broader than that. So for example, one of the things that you do over the holiday break, if you're a person like me, is you clean your house and you go through old stuff and you find pictures you haven't seen. Um, so I ended up I don't think I've ever bought or sold anything on eBay in my life. And in the last 2 weeks, I've bought 2 things and sold 3 things on eBay.
Wow, Steve, new year, new you.
Well, yeah, I know,
NFTs,
but
eBay. Holy cow.
meanwhile, our listeners are going, "Ooh, he's using eBay. What a techno utopian he is." But 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 I'm trying to understand this idea of objects as currency. That's really what I'm trying to understand.
Hmm.
So so I don't think you're being, critical to ask the question, which is, you know, Beanie Babies, baseball cards, music, album art. Um, there are things you have. Oh, and by the way, in my search for photographs, I found a whole collection of Alexis Scordato pictures,
Oh my goodness.
uh, most of which out bouncing around the city of New York with an orange robot.
So funny.
They're quite fabulous, by the way. Um, and explain to me why so many people felt the need to kind of gently molest the orange robot. What about that character made him or it molestable?
It looks so innocent.
There's a
People, New
picture.
Yorkers just want to like take something shiny and new and just like scruff it up a little bit.
There's a picture of uh, Stephanie Agresta licking Magnus the robot that is so suggestive and inappropriate that I don't even think I can post it.
I mean, the robot is so pure and asexual and cute, and New Yorkers are just like perverted, dirty people.
It's not dirty though. No. Anyway, we're
No,
off
it's like
subject, but
playful, playful, playful.
by the way, big props to Paul White who designed Magnus the robot, and it's the only in all of my companies, it's the only one that's ever had a mascot. And at some point in the future, there will be another mascot in my world. But I will say this to your question. One of the other things I did over the break was upgraded my flat screen from a 5-year-old perfectly functional flat screen. I went in and out of a Samsung flat screen, which I returned, and went to an LG, which is unbelievably gorgeous. And as I was collecting and minting these NFTs, I thought, wouldn't it be great in my LG gallery mode to be able to put my NFT collection on my flat screen?
Mm-hmm.
Can't do it
Oh.
yet today. I mean, maybe one of our listeners has a way to do it and will ping me. But I went looking for an app. I mean, the LG ecosystem is amazing. It's actually quite impressive, but a little bit restrictive. It's like not open. And there is no app that will allow me to connect my Atomic collection to my LG TV. Although I know LG said something at CES this week about connecting the metaverse or NFTs to your flat screen. But the question is, are they going to make me buy a new device?
Always.
I hope not.
Anything to squeeze.
Ugh.
More
All right.
money.
So let me ask you a question. You're of a different generation digitally than I am. Like, what's like, where are you in this? Like, I know we've talked about you have some Bitcoin, I have some Bitcoin, but like, do you go on Discord and see the conversations that are happening around what people are making and buying and selling, or is that just not your thing?
I mean, fair, like just at the periphery, like very lightweight. I mean, I have Bitcoin, Ethereum, some altcoins like Solana, but
No
yeah,
no Dogecoin.
no Dogecoin, no. But even then, it's so minimal. It's almost like it's like an experiment, right? Like I'm not short, I'm not long. I'm sort of just like let me understand the mechanics of this world. When it comes to NFTs, I mean, I see it all the time on Twitter, like people talking about their gorillas or monkeys that they buy.
I think we'd be missing an important uh, piece of this story if we didn't say out loud that the extraordinary, almost dazzling rise of TikTok in the last 24 months, is also, I mean, TikTok is the number one website on the internet from a cold start.
Isn't that bizarre? I actually was shocked when I read that. But
So
shocked but not shocked. I guess cuz everyone talks about how like TikTok is going to be like the next say Facebook or social network, but um they don't necessarily compare say TikTok with Google from a discovery standpoint. And so that stat of TikTok sort of surpassing Google as the number one visited website in the world, yeah, it was pretty big.
um, I'm not surprised by it. And I'll tell you why. I think that, if you look at the internet historically, it changes in stair steps, right? So if you compare Instagram to TikTok, um, you know, Instagram seems like it's trying to catch up, and TikTok just feels like it's an open world where people are. I mean, don't get me wrong. The interesting thing about TikTok for me is there are people on TikTok using it as a place for self expression and sharing,
Mhm.
and then there are people on TikTok that are absolutely focused on building scalable, massive, big followings and leadership and revenue. And it's just, I mean, it's almost like, hobbyists versus professionals. Um,
I mean, where there's going to be so much in 2022 around the creator economy and whether we can sort of fatten the long tail, right? Like to your point about, you have mega influencers who are signed with talent agencies, et cetera, Netflix deals, but sort of the core community that is creating. I mean, there's a lot there too.
I'm involved in a group. I can't be very specific about who they are, but I've seen some of the numbers on the creator economy inside Facebook, and the dollars are just staggering. Staggering. I
It's
mean,
it, what's interesting though, and I don't know if this is a prediction so much as like if you think about Web 2.0, so people were blogging, podcasting, making content online. Like that itself is not new. With Web 2.0 though, it actually then created a new class of professionals, people like me, right? I went from being, an early adopter of Twitter to being a marketer. What's so interesting about the creator economy is that it potentially is lending itself to creators and making content on the internet as actually just a full-time job. It's not like, oh, these creators are going to go and work in Hollywood studios. No, they're actually going to get paid to do exactly the thing that they're doing.
yeah, but yeah. I mean, I know of people on Facebook who are, making hundreds of thousands of dollars a day.
Wow.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
hard. They like honestly, the creators who I've met, they work really, really hard.
really, really, really hard.
They're art directors, copywriters, producers, editors, everything. They're like full stack creatives.
You know, I think it comes down to, we've used this word on the pod before, but it's worth saying out loud if we have to talk about one of the phenomenons of 2022 that would be worth paying close attention to. It's the creator economy.
Hmm.
And, I mean, just by way of example, here's a company that some people have heard of, OpenSea,
Hmm.
which is a blockchain startup, has raised $300 million on a value of $13.3 billion.
Wild.
I almost know what OpenSea does. Almost.
I thought it was a marketplace at first.
You know, I but and by the way, it's interesting. So when you go in and you start trying to take money from your Coinbase wallet and then move it to Wax so that you can buy an NFT, one of the big things that shows up that's a barrier is that a lot of these various marketplaces won't allow you to buy if you're in New York.
What?
They're restricted by in NYC.
See, this is the crux of it. Like in principle or in theory, I understand the sort of promise of the decentralized web, but every single time that you want to kind of convert it into something that has, I don't know, is attached to a physical place, a physical object, a transaction that's going to show up in the eyes of the IRS, that's not decentralized.
No, and I'm told that the reason New York is so kind of limiting of these things is because New York happens to be where Wall Street is. So a lot of power sitting in Lower Manhattan. But all you have to do is get a VPN, and then magically you're not in New York anymore. You can buy whatever you want.
Right.
So the battle that's shaping up, and metaverse we should get to before we run out of time, because the metaverse, and damn Facebook for stealing that word, for branding it. I mean, to your point, all of these things are connected, right? I mean, the metaverse is the visual implementation of a virtual world that you can participate in. And I made a decision as one of my New Year's resolutions that I am going to be much more active in virtual worlds this year.
Okay.
Because I want to understand it. And I don't want to be going, oh, the kids are in virtual worlds. Like I do.
That's never been how you roll, Steve. That's
no. But you have to be careful, because there comes a moment where you say, oh, the music those kids listen to doesn't work for me. And it's like, no, I got to listen to new music. I do think Apple will come out with glasses this year. And I think that will be incredibly powerful. I have a blog post coming out tomorrow about Apple's kind of hypocrisy around being both a drug dealer and a drug treatment facility. I mean, just because Apple is what is $3 trillion? It's a $3 trillion company. But let me, before we run out of time, let me ask you the question. Like, what's when you look forward to 2022, which we're now officially in, like, what do you see on the horizon that's exciting? What's the thing that you're like, that's what I'm excited about?
So besides the creator economy, I would say, actually, I think it's some of the stuff that's happening in Washington around just greater oversight from the government around regulating tech and platforms, because I think it's going to catalyze a broader discussion amongst users around privacy, safety, and just what good digital citizenship looks like.
So did you see the story that the Times had last Sunday about Brandon Silverman, who left Facebook? He sold Facebook, his company CrowdTangle, was there for 4 years, left in September, and is now working directly with Congress to help them write laws that will create more transparency around Facebook, Twitter, Reddit, all of them. He's a friend of mine. I've known him a long time. I think what he's doing is amazing and brilliant.
I did not see that. I really went dark over the holidays. I was like burnt out from contact tracing and trying to get COVID tests. But No, I mean that's the stuff that is exciting to me, which is that our legislators are not equipped on their own, I think, to solve these problems. They need to partner with technologists, and more importantly, consumers, users need to be better educated around the technology they're using and how it impacts them, in the way that you have nutrition labels on food, in the way that you have, you know, restaurants with ratings that say that the kitchen has met health codes. We sort of need that same level of oversight, I think, when it comes to our tech.
Well, I think that's a really good place to wrap this fabulous podcast up. Here's to an exciting and complicated and amazing 2022. And we will be covering all of these things.
So not
And
necessarily a happy new year, but a
no,
complicated 2022.
I'm prepared to say Happy New Year as long as it's said with ellipses
Okay.
or a
Okay.
question. Happy New, like, or maybe more like we're leaning into Happy New Year as opposed to, I don't know. How do you do that? Anyway, we are out of time. See you next week. Bye, everybody.
Bye.